Haters to Rumble Channel 2 please. All haters to Rumble Channel 2 please. For haters of Rick Walker, Sanctuary is available in the chat on Rumble Channel 2. Your safe space is on Rumble Channel 2. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Greetings Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live. From the Maverick News Network. World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
I can feel your anger.
Things are a little off kilter here tonight. Just so you're forewarned, but I'll muddle through. I think even the video is freezing up a little bit. Everything is just kind of running off the rails here. So we'll try to get through tonight's broadcast. Hang on here. All right. We are now live on Wimkin as well. Audio filtering back through. I am a little punchy tonight. I think maybe I didn't get enough sleep. So if things get kind of crazy, if the production goes sideways, that's why. It's because my mind is just a little bit fatigued, I guess. Just not quite up to 100%, but I'll weather my way through this because we do have some important stories to share with you tonight. Not the least of which is Justin Trudeau's emerging romance, maybe, with Katy Perry. I told you, he's not gone forever. He will come back. He's a media darling. We'll show you why later in the broadcast. Also, Donald Trump making statements today about Jeffrey Epstein taking women from Mar-a-Lago. Anyway, we have the audio on that, and it's a strange developing story, at least a strange twist to it. I'm not really sure where it's going, but I don't think it's going that this element of it is going to turn out quite the way people are thinking. It just doesn't feel right somehow. It feels contrived. That's just my gut feeling and nothing more. So don't put any more stock in it than that. What else do we have going on? The Ostriches. CTV did an interview with, they did a story where they interviewed John Catsimatidis, the uber billionaire rich dude out of New York, who has weighed in on this for whatever reason, maybe because he is into both the oil industry and the food industry through the ownership of his grocery store chain. I don't know. Anyway, he's weighing in more on the ostrich farm issue out in Edgewood, BC. But there's one line in the story tonight on CTV that kind of reveals so much. And it's a phrase in the news industry that's called burying the lead. They buried the lead. I will show you what the lead should have been on the CTV story, what you really should be focused on. It's in there. It's the veteran news guy in me. That's what's compelling me to take a closer look at this story tonight with you, the whole ostrich thing. What else? Stephen Harper, I want to rewind to, I guess it was yesterday or was it Sunday? Anyway, I want to rewind to his comments about the United States and trade and the advice that he gave Mark Carney and the Canadian government when he was asked. And I mentioned this briefly yesterday, but I think it's important. And the reason I think it's important is because he is a conservative, and I think when he speaks, conservatives listen. I think that we should all be listening to Stephen Harper a little bit more. Real words of wisdom coming from him. And I think that he is very pro-Canadian, even though he was also pro-American when he was prime minister. Words of wisdom. And we'll share those with you tonight. Plus, at the end of the broadcast, Dizzy Izzy, reprised, take 2. Going to share that with you. And I'll be back on the other side of this.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Here's a new twist on the Epstein files. All right, so let me bring this up. This is pretty explosive stuff, really. So Donald Trump today claimed that Jeffrey Epstein stole young women from the spa at his Mar-a-Lago club in Florida. This, of course, is escalating scrutiny of their past relationship, rightly so. So he was speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One, and Trump says Epstein hired spa workers, including possibly Virginia Giuffre, the prominent Epstein accuser who died by suicide back in April. He said, I told him, don't do it anymore. That's a quote. But he did it again, so I threw him out, Trump stated, calling Epstein persona non grata. Well, here's a clip from the media scrum on Air Force One.
So, Mr. President, Epstein has a certain reputation, obviously. I'm just curious, were some of the workers that were taken from you, were some of them young women?
Some of them.
Were some of them young women?
Well, I don't want to say, but everyone knows the people that were taken. And it was the concept of taking people that work for me is bad. But that story's been pretty well out there. And the answer is yes, they were.
Yes, they were young women?
What did they do? In the spa.
In the spa?
Yeah, people that work in the spa. I have a great spa, one of the best spas in the world at Mar-a-Lago. And people were taken out of the spa, hired by him. In other words, gone. And other people would come and complain, this guy is taking people from the spa. I didn't know that. And then when I heard about it, I told him, I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people, whether it was spa or not spa. I don't want him taking people. And he was fine. And then not too long after that, he did it again. And I said, out of here.
Mr. President, did one of those stolen, persons, that include Virginia Giuffre?
I don't know. I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people. Yeah. He stole her. So,
Mr. President,
Wow.
Were some of the workers that were taken from you, were some of them young women?
Were some of them young women? Well, I don't want to say.
So that was Trump
Everyone
on Air Force
knows.
One in media gaggle. The story just keeps getting thicker, doesn't it? What did he know, and when did he know it, and why didn't he do something about it if he knew? Wow. Wow. So this is obviously not over. This just continues to dog the president, who says that he emphasized that he had no complaints about Mar-a-Lago, and a White House spokesperson previously said Epstein was banned for being a creep. So these remarks come amid pressure from some people still in MAGA, some MAGA supporters, for Trump to release Epstein-related files, which the administration has resisted. So we shall see. Another layer to the story. What a tangled web. So also, did you see that Premier David Eby out of British Columbia announced a major clean energy project in Vancouver, launching BC Hydro's 2025 call for power to generate 5,000 gigawatt hours of electricity annually, enough to power 500,000 homes. Eby invited U.S. clean energy producers to relocate to BC, kind of taking a jab at President Trump's criticism of wind turbines. Eby saying BC welcomes renewable energy to drive economic growth. I think we have a clip of Eby. Yes, we do. Let's bring him up. Opposing viewpoints. Eby versus Trump. Here he is. This is what he had to say.
Today, I'm announcing a second call for power, an additional 5,000 gigawatts of clean energy that we're calling for to be produced here in British Columbia, enough to power 500,000 homes, as well as major industrial projects across the province. It is an economic driver in every corner of British Columbia for communities right across this beautiful province of ours. And it's a reflection of two things. One is our commitment to grow our economy, to ensure that we're standing strong as British Columbians. We're relying on our advantages, and we're supporting growth in the industries in which we're strong. And the second is that we believe that climate change is real, that we understand that we have a role to play here in British Columbia in driving down emissions, and clean electricity is the way that we're going to do it. And we're going to address climate change at the same time as we're growing our economy. And I couldn't help but notice the President of the United States, Donald Trump, saying that he doesn't like those windmills that produce electricity. They interfere with the views from his golf courses. Let me tell you, to all American clean energy producers, come relocate to British Columbia. We are the clean energy capital of the world. We're going to do it. We're creating energy here. We're supportive of clean energy, and we will continue to be so. You can join the amazing more than 700 medical professionals that have applied to join our health service from the United States, and we welcome you, and you are welcome here.
Okay. We'll see how that goes. Eby, inviting U.S. clean energy producers, as you saw there, to relocate to BC, taking a jab at President Trump's criticism of wind turbines. He says BC welcomes renewable energy to drive economic growth. The initiative, being part of a $36 billion 10-year plan, prioritizes wind and solar projects with at least 25% First Nations ownership. And he's aiming to create thousands of jobs and support industries like clean hydrogen, which I always thought was a pretty good idea. And I can tell you why in a moment. Energy Minister Adrian Dix emphasized the urgency of self-sufficiency amid U.S. tariff threats. BC Hydro expects to award contracts by early 2026 with power delivery starting in 2028. And why do I point to hydrogen as a pretty good idea for an energy source? Well, it's because when you make hydrogen and then you burn it, the end product is water, H2O, which you make more hydrogen from. So it's a circular energy source that is extremely efficient, and you get you don't really get any pollution, no green or no greenhouse gas emissions per se. It you get carbon dioxide, water. You get the same ingredients out of it, the same components out of burning hydrogen that you need to create more of it. So it's an absolute renewable energy source, which is it comes from water. And did you know that we have exactly the same amount of water to the drop on planet Earth today as we did when the Earth was originally created, with the exception of any water that has been carried into space on spacecraft and expelled from space-going vehicles? Other than that, we have exactly the same amount of water on the face of the Earth today as we always have. So I don't think we're going to run out of water anytime soon. Now, clean water, that might be a different matter. It depends on how much we pollute. That's a whole other issue. The water itself, plenty of that. So what else do we have going on here? Back to Trump again. He has issued a new ultimatum to Russian President Vladimir Putin, slashing the timeline for a Ukraine ceasefire. This really not getting much play in North American media, in the Canada-US news cycle tonight, but it is getting play over in Europe. Speaking in Scotland yesterday, and that's probably why it's making more headlines over there. Alongside British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Trump expressed frustration over Russia's ongoing attacks, particularly recent strikes on Kyiv. Trump announced he's cutting his original 50-day deadline now for a peace deal to just 10 to 12 days, saying there is no reason for waiting. He said that we just don't see any progress being made. He says, he warned that failure to comply could lead to severe U.S. tariffs on everybody, on Russia and its trade partners, including up to 100% on countries like China and India. So this move comes after stalled peace talks in Istanbul and follows Trump's meeting with Starmer at his Turnberry Golf Resort, where trade and the Ukraine conflict were key topics. Ukrainian officials, including President Zelensky's aide, Yermak, welcomed the pressure, calling it a sign of peace through strength. We'll see. The Kremlin, however, has dismissed the deadline as unacceptable, with spokesman Dmitry Peskov stating Moscow will continue its efforts until goals are met. We will continue to follow that story. Somehow, again, this story tonight, this one, it just doesn't feel, it feels temporary. I'll use that word. It doesn't feel like it's genuine somehow. And again, that's just a gut feeling. That's my editorial submission on that story. It doesn't feel right. I just have a feeling that the deadline will come and go and probably nothing much will happen. What else do we have? Oh, yes, this tragic shooting in Midtown Manhattan yesterday. Man, claimed 5 lives, including the New York Police Department officer and the gunman. Authorities say 27-year-old Shane Devin Tamura, who had a documented history of mental health issues, opened fire with an M4 rifle inside a high-rise at 345 Park Avenue. It happened around 6 p.m. last night. I'm sorry we missed that story. It was sort of a developing story while we were on live. And of course, being one guy and a one-man show over here, except for your input, of course, and your help, I was not aware of it until immediately signing off. I became aware of the story at that time. So the victims include a 36-year-old officer, a 3.5-year veteran of the New York Police Department who leaves behind a pregnant wife and 2 young sons. 3 civilians were also killed. 1 additional person was wounded. Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch reported that Tamura, who was Tamura? Tamura. I'm sorry, I've lost the name. Shane Devin Tamura, 27 years old. This is the gunman. Had a history of mental health issues. Opened fire with this M4 rifle inside the high-rise. So Tamura drove from Las Vegas to New York, entered the building, immediately shot the officer, Islam, and fired at others as well. Yeah, Islam is the name of the officer who was shot. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing the name correctly. I have it here up on the screen. Didarul Islam. He had been with the NYPD for 3.5 years. So the motive remains under investigation. Authorities examining why Tamura targeted the officer, or the Office of Rudin Management. And Mayor Eric Adams called Officer Islam a hero who died protecting New Yorkers. The NYPD is urging anyone with information to come forward. We will continue to monitor the story in the hours and days ahead, and we'll bring updates as warranted. Now, also, just pivoting back to something that just made headlines over the last couple of days, former Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper urging Canada to diversify its trade partners during a speech yesterday at the Midwestern Legislative Conference in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Speaking to policymakers from 4 Canadian provinces and 11 U.S. states, Harper called the ongoing U.S.-Canada trade war a wake-up call for Ottawa to reduce its reliance on American markets. Now, Harper, who described himself as, and he's probably quite right about this, probably the most pro-American prime minister in Canadian history, says he advised Prime Minister Mark Carney's government 2 weeks ago to look beyond the U.S. for trade. Now, I did touch on this briefly yesterday. I don't know if you recall that, but I did very briefly. And Harper is arguing that Canada's grossly excessive dependence on the U.S., driven by geographic proximity, is unjustified and risky. And we are beginning to see that come to the surface now. He says we just cannot be in a position in the future where we can be threatened in this way and not have that leverage. So Harper stated, citing U.S. President Donald Trump's hostile trade actions, including threats of tariffs, which are ongoing. And it looks like Trump is going to play the hardest ball with Canada. I can't imagine why. It wouldn't be that he wants to take over the country or anything. Would it? Let's go to Harper. So this is him yesterday. And I did want to highlight this because I think that especially people probably within the demographic of our program, you guys, I think Harper carries a lot of weight. And I think he was a very effective prime minister. That's me editorializing, but here he is on Canada-U.S. trade relations.
And Kim Kardashian, a bunch of other people. So anyway, it was quite something. I'm lowering my daughter's expectations though for any kind of wedding.
Just another day in the life of. Mr. Prime Minister, when you look
at this is a good thing about being former prime minister. You could do this kind of stuff. Couldn't do this as prime minister. You know, the government would have made me pay for my travel and everything. But anyway.
True. So one of the things that's been interesting Oh, this resonates with a lot of legislators here. They feel that. They feel that.
It can be pretty good out of office, actually. Don't kid yourself.
One of the things that's been interesting is that in May, for the 4 consecutive months, trade with the U.S. has actually gone down from Canada, including that month, it went up 5.7% to other parts of the world. So I wanted to get your perspective on what's the longer-term view in terms of trade from Canada, and then also what would you want to tell our American colleagues here?
Yeah, look, really good question. You know, you have to be careful about interpreting too much from month-to-month data because there's a lot of noise, a lot of natural fluctuation in that. I think we all are aware, certainly anybody in the airline hospitality business is aware of the decline in Canadian vacation travel to the United States. It's been very dramatic. Look, I'm just gonna put it in this context, just so everyone understands. You know, I think it's fair to say, probably the most pro-American Prime Minister in Canadian history. And I tell people that if a year ago the government had asked me, you know, President Trump's coming in, he's talking about, you know, big challenges on trade, USMCA, tariffs, what would you advise? I would have said a year ago, this is a real opportunity for Canada to really deepen its economic and security partnership with the United States. However, when this government did actually ask me a few weeks ago my advice was the opposite. My advice was, yes, you know, on the economy, we've got to kind of get something short-term worked out with the Trump administration, but this really is a wake-up call for this country to truly diversify its trade export markets. That's why, you know, that's why we did sign the trade deals all around the world, Europe, Asia, Pacific, the Americas. And Canada has been, to be blunt, this is, you know, nothing against the U.S. The reality is, independent of the current disputes, Canada has been, to use business term, and I'm in the investment business now, we have been grossly overweight the United States as a country, and there is no reason for that. Just because we have that geographic proximity does not justify the degree of dependence that we have on a single market, which is sometimes disadvantageous. And the other thing, you know, in terms of security, my advice to the government is, yes, absolutely, spend more on defense. We should have been doing it all along. But while we spend a lot more in defense, while the border is a shared responsibility, let's make sure we spend a lot more on defense so that we can be independently responsible for our own land, seas, and skies, independent of the United States. And I'm just going to tell you right now, one political role I still have, I chair the Global Federation of Conservative Parties, and I can tell you that this is the advice every allied capital is getting from everybody like me that they talk to. And this is not ideal, but I just think it's a reality. The cat's out of the bag. You can't, or toothpaste is out of the tube, whatever you want to call it. You can't put it back. And I think it's unfortunate. I think in the long term, this direction will weaken the free world more than it will help it, and it will, I think, ultimately weaken the United States as well. So I think it's unfortunate, but that is the reality of the situation that we have to deal with.
So we have state legislators and, you know, provincial leaders here. At the subnational level, what can they do to move things forward? Well,
look, I think what, you know, I'm not going to tell you anything that anybody in this room doesn't already know. I think it's just try and bring the facts to bear, you know, on Washington, and for that matter on our own government, although to be frank, well, the outcome of the election wasn't what I want. I think the current government does, you know, get it better than their predecessors. Just the fact of how, look, the biggest thing is this, I'm talking this from the Canadian's perspective. I mean, for the United States, and I'll tell you this, I've told this to American audience, for the United States, like, understand that Canada is your largest, most balanced, and most lucrative trade arrangement in the entire world, by a lot, by a lot. And it's not just a trade relationship. As you know, in the Midwest, the prairies, this is not trade. This is just total mutual, total economic integration for the benefit of industries of all kinds and services on both sides of the border. And frankly, you know, it's, by international comparisons, it's virtually tariff-free. Like, I don't know what it is that we're trying to fix here. Of course, we can always tinker with things, but, you know, it's, as I say, it's a relationship that could actually be deeper, but, you know, unfortunately, I don't think that's the direction it's going to head. But let's make sure that everybody understands, you know, if one government is legislating against industries on one side of the border, they're probably hurting industry on the same side of the border. That's just the reality of the depth of this relationship. And it's, look, it's not just, you know, as was said earlier, it's not just the trade relationship. I mean, this is a deep social and cultural relationship. Look, my own family tree, my ancestors were loyalists from the American Revolution. On the other hand, when I look at, you know, my family tree over the generations, 7, 8 generations now with my kids, like almost half of that family tree are American. One of my very distant cousins was a General Harper, who was a senior military commander in the post-war period in the United States. So these are just very deep relations, and you know, sometimes, like, independent of what's happened recently, what all Americans need to understand, I know it's not so much when you're border states, we're close to each other, we always get each other, but Canadians are always expressing, I like to tell the story, Canadians are always expressing concern about, we really don't get the attention in Washington we deserve based on the size of the relationship. And I like to quote the former president of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Tom Donahue, and he said, first time I ever met him, he said, Prime Minister, this is the problem you're going to have. As important as this relationship is, in security and economic and everything else, you never get the attention you deserve in Washington. In fact, not only do you not get attention, you get taken for granted and sometimes just inadvertently slighted. And he said, you've got to understand what the reason for that is. The reason for that is, as Americans, we don't really think of Canada as a foreign country. We think of you as like a neighbor, almost part of the family. And that's how we treat family. So.
I think that's good.
Okay. That is available online, that entire exchange. All of his remarks, and well worth watching. Stephen Harper, I would say one of the, maybe even the best prime minister in Canadian history. Not like Justin Trudeau, who, you know how I feel about Justin. I think he was incredibly ineffective, made a lot of bad choices. This is me editorializing. I've said many times, I think he was the worst prime minister in Canadian history. That's, you know, yeah, I'm on record and I own it and I still believe it. I don't think he was a good prime minister. Was not good for the country. Harper, very effective. We'll see how Carney makes out. But Trudeau is still back in the spotlight tonight. Why? Because he's hanging out with Katy Perry. Do we care? Well, I care, just because this highlights. Can I find this story with him? He's up here somewhere. I'll find it for you. So it just shows you this guy's not going away. Trudeau is not gonzo. He's coming back. He will be back. You mark my words. So where's the Katy Perry story? I'll just search for it this way. I had him up on the screen earlier. Here we go. Yeah, we'll show it to you on all the major MSM media outlets are carrying this tonight. Here's CBC, corporate media powerhouse. Justin Trudeau, Katy Perry spotted dining together at a high-end Montreal restaurant. That is international pop superstar Katy Perry and former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau were spotted dining together Monday at a high-end Montreal restaurant. Dragon, where were you? Where were you? Why? We needed to get you on the PM entertainment beat, and should have been chasing down JT. An encounter that caused a roar online. TMZ first reported the story and obtained photos and video of Perry and Trudeau talking to each other. Oh my goodness, at a table for two. At a fine dining establishment run by celebrity chef Danny Smiles in the city's Plateau neighborhood. The entertainment outlet also reported Perry and Trudeau went on a walk together in Montreal's Mount Royal Park earlier in the day. Celebrity news. Perry is performing Tuesday in Ottawa. That would be today, tonight. Then she'll be in Montreal and Quebec City this week as part of her Lifetimes tour. I love Quebec City. It's just so old world. TMZ reported an eyewitness saw the two drinking cocktails and sharing several dishes, including one with lobster. There they are. There they are. Can you see that? This is a TMZ video. Caught on video. What kind of relationship do you think that is? Inquiring minds want to know. It's celebrity news, not just politics. He's going to be back. You'll see. He's a political animal, political family. That is Canadian royalty. Even though I think he was the worst prime minister in Canadian history, not everyone views it that way. And yeah, you mark my words, that guy is not gonzo. He's a coming back. He's still young and has a lot of years of life left in him. And he'll come full circle. You'll see. You'll see.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, we are back. And we're still live. And back to the Epstein story. Tonight, CBS reporting there was no missing minute in the original Epstein jail video, according to a government source. I'll show you the headline over on CBS. Now, you may recall that when the video was released from the prison, there appeared to be 60 seconds of video missing, and that was explained away as being a portion of video that was always missing, a 60-second gap as the video system would reset. Or so we were told, but now tonight on CBS, we are getting something of a different story. Yes. So they're telling us that there was no missing minute in the surveillance video from Jeffrey Epstein's cell block at Manhattan's Metropolitan Correctional Center, where the financier died by suicide back in 2019. The Justice Department released nearly 11 hours of footage earlier this month showing a common area near Epstein's cell, a time code jump. Do you know what a time code is? Maybe a lot of you don't. Time code is a digitally embedded time signature. It's like a clock, but it's embedded on the tape to show time. And it's embedded right on the tape, not like an old style tape counter on like a cassette recorder. Anyway, it's a time signature, and it's recorded as digital information, essentially, or even linear. It can be done in a linear fashion, but it's embedded on the videotape so that you know exactly frame by frame exactly what time. If you sync the recording to a clock, it'll tell you exactly what time something happened when recorded on the video. So in this case, we're seeing a time code jump from 11:58 and 58 seconds p.m. to midnight. That all sparked conspiracy theories, CBS is saying, about tampering. So a government source has told CBS the FBI, Bureau of Prisons, and DOJ Inspector General have an unedited video with the full minute intact. This is a contradiction. Attorney General Pam Bondi had claimed the gap was due to a nightly system reset on outdated 1999 equipment, but video experts called that unusual, noting the footage was stitched together and slightly sped up. So the source didn't clarify why the public version was edited, fueling ongoing speculation. And I think this report tonight from CBS will only serve to fuel even further speculation and cast more doubt on everything.
This month, the Federal Bureau of Investigation released the primary video used in the investigation of the death of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Deputy Director of the FBI, Dan Bongino, described that video on Fox & Friends just weeks before its release.
There's video that when you look at the video, and we will release, that's what's taken a while on this, we are working on cleaning it up to make sure you have an enhanced, and we're going to give the original so you don't think there were any shenanigans. You're going to see there's no one there but him. There's video clear as day. He's the only person in there and the only person coming out. You can see it.
We showed this video to multiple video forensics experts who agreed what the FBI and others have said is simply not true. That video and other evidence led to the conclusion by the government that Epstein's death on August 10, 2019, was suicide. An analysis in consultation with video forensic experts suggests multiple inconsistencies between statements from government officials, including Bongino, a report from the Department of Justice's Office of the Inspector General into Epstein's death released in 2023, and the tape itself. These inconsistencies, while not contradicting the conclusion Epstein died by suicide, do introduce questions that the government so far has declined to answer. We'll show you those in a moment. First, let's break this all down. Epstein was held at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Lower Manhattan, in a unit separate from the general population known as the Special Housing Unit, or SHU. The unit has 3 wings, each with 2 levels. Epstein was held in the upstairs L tier of his wing. That tier is accessed by a set of stairs from the central common area. Directly adjacent to those stairs is the officers' station, where on-duty corrections officers spend most of their time. The Inspector General report says several cameras in the unit were streaming a live feed to a remote location in the prison, but no one was watching them. Malfunctioning equipment meant only one camera recorded the general area. That camera captured part of the common area, including the officer's station and a sliver of the staircase leading to Epstein's cell. The footage begins at 7:40 p.m. the night before Epstein's death. You can see staff and inmates moving about, preparing for the nightly lockdown. That's the officer's station in the background. Only 2 employees have been publicly identified. Tova Noel, a corrections officer pulling a double shift that began at 4 p.m., and Michael Thomas, a materials handler who won't arrive until midnight. Epstein is seen for the first and only time on camera at 7:49 p.m. when the Department of Justice said he was escorted to his cell from another wing of the unit. It's important to note here, you don't actually see Epstein ascend the stairwell to his cell block. Remember what Dan Bongino said.
There's video clear as day. He's the only person in there and the only person coming out. You can see it.
Let's zoom in and play that again in slow motion. Here's the sliver of stairs. Epstein is here with his escort, and they walk off screen. When the FBI released the video, they said anyone entering or attempting to enter the tier where Epstein's cell was located from the common area would have been captured by this footage. But with the primary entrance here, the pathway from the entrance to the stairs is completely out of view of the camera. For the next hour or so, corrections officers and inmates are seen moving about, preparing for all prisoners to be locked down. At 8:21, another inmate is seen being escorted toward the stairs leading to Epstein's cell area. No movement is...
Oops. I do apologize. We lost our feed there. I will be right back. Let me get it requeued.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
I do apologize for that. I think it's a fairly well thought out and produced story. So let's bring it back up here, full screen now, and we'll resume.
Part of the common area, including the officer's station and a sliver of the staircase leading to Epstein's cell. The footage begins at 7:40 p.m. the night before Epstein's death. You can see staff and inmates moving about, preparing for the nightly lockdown. That's the officer's station in the background. Only 2 employees have been publicly identified. Tova Noel, a corrections officer pulling a double shift that began at 4 p.m., and Michael Thomas, a materials handler who won't arrive until midnight. Epstein is seen for the first and only time on camera at 7:49 p.m. when the Department of Justice said he was escorted to his cell from another wing of the unit. It's important to note here, you don't actually see Epstein ascend the stairwell to his cell block. Remember what Dan Bongino said.
There's video clear as day. He's the only person in there and the only person coming out. You can see it.
Let's zoom in and play that again in slow motion. Here's the sliver of stairs. Epstein is here with his escort, and they walk off screen. When the FBI released the video, they said anyone entering or attempting to enter the tier where Epstein's cell was located from the common area would have been captured by this footage. But with the primary entrance here, the pathway from the entrance to the stairs is completely out of view of the camera. For the next hour or so, corrections officers and inmates are seen moving about, preparing for all prisoners to be locked down. At 8:21, another inmate is seen being escorted toward the stairs leading to Epstein's cell area. No movement is detected on the stairs again. By 8:24, all of the inmates appear to have been taken to their cells. Noel told the Inspector General she visited Epstein's cell at about 10 p.m. You can see her head in that direction here, albeit closer to 10:30, but not climb the stairs. The rules require rounds to be made every 30 minutes, but according to the report, this was the only time anyone checked on the inmates that night. There was even a sign printed on orange paper posted on the guard station saying mandatory rounds must be conducted every 30 minutes on Epstein. As per God. This was because of concerns about his risk for suicide. At 10:38 p.m., the report says someone, probably Noel, carries a bundle of bedding or clothing up the stairs. It's a rare instance the video does catch movement on the stairs, but barely. Let's see that zoomed in and in slow motion again. Several of the video forensic experts we spoke with were skeptical about the report's conclusion and thought that the video could be showing an inmate walking up the stairs. Authorities say this was the last time anyone approached his cell block until his body was discovered the next morning. Again, while the video does not contradict that, experts who viewed the video say the limited field of view makes it impossible to definitively conclude that no one used those stairs in that time period. Beyond this, there are other issues our investigation and others have uncovered. At 11:21 p.m. and 34 seconds, a cursor appears briefly on screen, indicating the video may have been recorded with a camera or a screen recording and was not an export of the RAW file. The FBI said it had seized the prison's hard drive 5 days after his death and had released the full RAW footage this month. Two experts told CBS News the video's metadata, which tracks how a file is created and changed, shows it's made from 2 clips stitched together in editing software. Those experts also say the video was edited and saved multiple times. Next up, the now famous missing minute. At 11:57 and 35 seconds, an individual appears on screen from the direction of the main door. It's likely this is Michael Thomas arriving for his midnight shift and replacing the other staff member on duty who'd been working from 4 to midnight. Noel was starting a second shift of 8 hours. From that point on, only Noel and Thomas were on duty during the critical window when Epstein is believed to have died. At 11:58 and 58 seconds, the video jumps to midnight, and the aspect ratio of the video changes slightly, another indication it may have been edited. Zooming in and playing back in slow motion, you can see a slight shift in the shape of the figure standing or sitting around the officer's desk, but otherwise, nothing changes. Attorney General Pam Bondi attributed the missing minute to a nightly reset of the security camera system.
There was a minute that was off the counter, and what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999, so every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing, so we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night.
That additional video has not been released, and a government source has alleged to CBS News the FBI and other agencies are in possession of the full, unedited footage. Why the FBI did not release that is unclear, and the agency offered no comment. Importantly, the Inspector General gives no indication there was a minute missing when their team reviewed the video. We can surmise the male staffer working the 4 to 12 shift would have left during the missing minute based on the report, leaving just Noel and Thomas. But that is not seen on camera. Serious problems with the government's investigation and witness statements don't end there. The report says the unit was secured by 2 doors, one requiring a key held only by Noel and Thomas. Noel told investigators no one could enter without her physically opening that door. But here's where it gets tricky. Let's look at this one example. 4 a.m. Noel remains in full view of the camera, yet seconds later, someone walks in, and it appears neither Noel nor Thomas let her in. The report is silent on this apparent contradiction. And even if there was no other key, both Noel and Thomas had ample opportunities to let someone in. At least a half dozen times, one or the other of them exits the camera frame in the direction of the door, all without explanation. We shared this with our forensic experts who agreed there was no way to conclusively determine from the video whether an unseen visitor was or was not let into the Epstein unit, although both Noel and Thomas have said no one else entered.
Okay, we'll leave it there. If you want to see the full video, it's on CBS. But I ran, a healthy portion of that tonight because that's not so much revealing as it is something that raises more questions, I think. Boy, oh boy. Talk about fueling conspiracies or conspiracy theories. Yeah, that's gasoline on a fire.
Someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on Earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching. The world is watching. On TV, the entire world is watching. On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
What is it about the United States and these stories that just go on forever? These seedy, terrible stories that just dig deep into the depths of muck and just seem to go on forever. From JFK's assassination to this with the Epstein death. And always inconsistencies in the investigations, the stories, the reporting, conflicting information that just fuels conspiracies. It's not healthy. It makes me wonder, which is, I guess, the problem. Okay, enough of that. Well, sort of, almost. Because we're seeing that, this whole thing kind of came back full circle, didn't it? It's just Trump, and then it comes back to Trump, and Epstein, the women or girls being sort of whisked away, stolen, as Donald Trump sort of put it, from Mar-a-Lago, escalating scrutiny of the past relationship between Trump and Epstein even more, and then being asked about it on Air Force One today. This is not going away. I think that Trump would very much like for it to go away. But what happened today with those comments about Epstein and Mar-a-Lago and these girls being stolen away from Mar-a-Lago? I don't know. Something seems off. We'll have to let it play out. But you mark my words. Something's off about this. I can't put my finger on it. I just don't know. But I can feel it in my gut. What else do we have tonight for you? We got this whole ostrich story again. The other story that just won't go away. The debate over the Universal Ostrich Farm in Edgewood. Why does this story remind me of the witches of Eastwick? The ostriches of Edgewood in British Columbia. Story's intensifying as today we see that U.S. billionaire John Catsimatidis sticking his nose into the affairs of Canadiana renews his call today to spare the 400 or almost 400 ostriches from the Canadian Food Inspection Agency cull order due to the avian flu. He was speaking on his New York radio station yesterday, and he urged President Donald Trump to intervene, claiming the cull is government overreach and the birds hold valuable antibodies. Gee, I didn't hear that. Let's go search for that, shall we? Let's see if we can find the clip. from his archives? I'm interested to know. You know what? Let me take a little break. Let me see if I can get you the clip of Castamatidis. I'll take a little break. We'll come back. If I can, I can. If I can't, I can't. I wasn't sure if I would even where we were going to go with this, but hang on. It might be worth it.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
I'm still doing a real-time search. See if I can get the clip. I don't know that we're going to get that for you tonight. I apologize. I didn't have this queued up for you. If it's really that important, I'll share it with you tomorrow. We can elaborate on it. Probably not that earth-shattering. I can tell you what he said because we've got the quotes. Yeah, I was kind of aware of this story, but not all the details as we started digging into it here. So just got a little off guard on this one, but that's not the most important thing anyway with regard to this tonight. Let me show you what I am more focused on. So here's Mr. Castamatidis sticking his nose in to Canadian politics, this New York billionaire. All right, and here's the story on CTV because they actually did an interview with him, and that's what's leading to the headline here and the subsequent story. And he's saying, it says here, an American billionaire says he will help bankroll a BC ostrich farm's legal battle to overturn an order by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency to cull nearly 400 birds after the highly pathogenic H5N1 virus was detected in the herd last December. You know, I have to wonder why. Why all the interest in this from a U.S. grocery store giant, billionaire, and guy invested in the oil industry in Canada? Why? Why is he so interested in this particular story? There's something we're still not quite seeing here, I suspect. There's another layer to this yet to be uncovered. Might have to dig a little harder. Even harder. But here in this story, there is some important information that I think maybe even the journalist who put this thing together, this piece, maybe is not aware of. And I'm going to point it out to you. They buried the lead, in my view. So it says here, the owners of Universal Ostrich Farm in Edgewood are currently waiting to see if the Federal Court of Appeal will strike down a decision by a lower court to uphold CFIA's order to cull those ostriches because of the fact that 69 of the birds died from avian flu, and pretty clear that there may have been further infection and may still be further infection, as the ostriches may be carriers of the disease. Typhoid Marys or typhoid ostriches, such as the saying might go. So we know that the owners of the farm are challenging this. And then it says here in an affidavit, David Belinsky, one of two Universal Ostrich Farm business partners claims that their antibody research could bring millions of dollars annually in financial returns over the next several years. Belinsky says the $3,000 in compensation per ostrich the Canadian Food Inspection Agency is offering will not offset the costs of culling the flock, which will devastate the business, quote, beyond recovery. Well, I think inadvertently, CTV has told us why it will devastate the business beyond recovery. Because if you keep reading on, it says if the destruction of the birds goes ahead, Belinsky says the Universal Ostrich Farm would be on the hook for $620,000 worth of antigens, which is being provided by its research partner in Japan. Let me highlight that for you. If the destruction of the birds goes ahead, Belinsky said that Universal Ostrich Farms would be on the hook for $620,000. That's well over $500,000 worth of antigens, which has been provided by its research partner in Japan. We told you these ostriches had been injected repeatedly over and over again with COVID antigens. And indeed, we are seeing now that not only were those ostriches injected over and over again, the farm still has $620,000 worth of antigens to inject into these birds. If they cull the birds, the antigens are not worth anything. This is a biofarm. This is a biological research facility, an open air biolab, where they've been injecting these birds with antigens to do COVID research. So the birds would produce COVID antibodies. They're injecting the birds with this stuff. Denied at one point by people out at the farm. Not by so much the farm owners, but some of the people around them, like Jim Kerr. Oh, they're not injecting these birds with anything, he said, confusing people. Yes, they were. Not only were they injecting them, we're now seeing that the farm went way out on a financial limb to acquire a stockpile of this experimental antigen that they were injecting into those biolab birds, which they had been using for experimentation in order to produce COVID antibodies, which would then become present in the eggs that they would then sell for very high prices to their business partner or whatever, I guess, over at this educational institution or research facility over in Japan. People attacking me saying, you're crazy. It's not true. Yes, it is true. CTV reporting on it inadvertently, I would say, as part of their report through documents and showing that indeed these birds had been, continued to be injected repeatedly with this COVID antigen so they could conduct research. And the story further goes on to say that really, the quality of the research is maybe to be questioned because the environment there was not entirely controlled. The birds out in the open air, being exposed to all kinds of things. When you are conducting any kind of research, you want a very controlled environment. That is not what you have when you have the birds just wandering around out in the open, being exposed to wildlife and even human beings in this case, in contravention of CFIA orders, frankly. So Castamatidis, this billionaire out of New York, says here, first became aware of the plight of the Universal Ostrich Farm in February after getting an email plea from the farm spokesperson, Katie Pasitny, to help save hundreds of surviving birds from overreach from the government of Canada. Oh. Of course, being on the hook for over $600,000 worth of stockpiled COVID antigens might have something to do with the tack that you're taking on this issue. You don't want those birds dead when you still have to collect revenue from them. They have to generate revenue so you can pay off that debt. And that because they acquired that antigen apparently from this research educational facility over in Japan. Cast says, friends in high places, indeed. Castamatidis said he also contacted, it says here, his friends in the U.S. President Donald Trump's administration and persuaded U.S. Secretary of Health Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Dr. Mehmet Oz, head of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, to put more pressure on the CFIA. Foreign pressure. What is the leverage that this farm has that was able to bring to bear all this political pressure on the Canadian government? It says here, Oz has offered to provide sanctuary for the ostriches at his Florida ranch. Send them. As far as I'm concerned, get them out of here. While Kennedy has written directly to Federal Agriculture Minister Heath MacDonald to urge him to suspend any planned culling of the flock so joint research between Canada and the U.S. can be pursued. Kennedy says such collaboration would be a unique research opportunity and notes that the remaining birds in the flock have survived more than 170 days after blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And then there's the sign, stop the murder of 400 healthy ostriches. Yeah. Weaponization of the legal system. Yeah. Nearly 8 months have passed since the outbreak, but University of Saskatchewan virologist Angela Rasmussen believes that a cull is still justifiable. She warns that it's possible that there may be virus still spreading among the birds. Probably. Yeah. Even if they appear healthy. Yeah, because we know that that's the way ostriches are. Nothing unusual or special about that. That's the way ostriches are. They are more resilient to that particular disease than chickens. Some will still die, but many will still live. And then they become typhoid Marys, carriers of the disease. Scott Weiss, the chief of infection control, and they may get over it and stop shedding over time, but for a while, they're typhoid Marys and may still be, still exposed to wildlife, which may be carrying in and out, being infected, reinfected, infected, and reinfected. Scott Weiss, the chief of infection control at the Ontario Veterinary College at Guelph University, says the CFIA is in a tough spot and needs to avoid a situation where people can weaponize the legal system. Indeed, which is exactly what is going on here. If anyone can start just appealing, there's no way to contain disease when culling is required, we said in an email response to CTV News. That's right, because even if those ostriches got well, they can still carry, and probably still were, and may still be carrying the disease. So the entire time that they are infectious, they may appear to be healthy, but continue to spread the disease. And all these people who went out there and came into contact with those birds could also have been carrying the disease further afield. So they also become carriers, but not getting sick from it, because human beings don't generally become sick from the disease. There have been exceptions, like that girl that went out to the farm. She became ill. The veterinarian internal medicine specialist said his ideal solution involves CFIA testing each ostrich and billing Universal Ostrich Farm for the expense. If the entire flock is virus-free, euthanasia can be avoided, but the birds should still be seized and placed in a different home. That is probably the right approach as well, because the facility they have there appears to have some, well, it seems to be lacking. We'll put it that way in many respects. He says, Weiss goes on here and says, that makes it clear you can't just stall and get what you want, and takes away the financial incentive to act like this. Yes, because you should be a responsible farmer and do what is in the best interests of the community, of your industry, of other farmers, not just what you think is in your best interest. You should be thinking not just about your ostriches, but about the chickens down the road or across the other side of the province or on the other side of the country, maybe. But, some people are not that thoughtful. Questionable scientific value, as we've highlighted here on Maverick News. And I haven't read all of this, but I will read this because I think I know exactly where it's going. Both Weiss and Rasmussen are skeptical of the value of the research that is being conducted at the Edgewood Farm, yes, because of an apparent lack of scientific rigor. Indeed. This is a situation where these birds have really been out in nature, it says here. Their pens are outdoors. They've been exposed to a lot of different people and things. I would think that the scientific value of anything that we could find from them would be somewhat, as I have pointed out myself, limited is the word right there. Limited value, if any, just because we don't fully know the bird's history. They've been injected with a lot of stuff and exposed to a lot of things. It's not a controlled environment. It's not really a proper scientific facility because there are too many variables being inserted into the equation. In a memorandum of fact submitted during the appeal, it says federal government lawyers argue that Universal Ostrich Farms did not provide sufficient proof to show its herd had genetic value and should be spared from a cull. I would agree. That's my editorial opinion. The Universal Ostrich Farm did submit a presentation on ostrich antibodies, a business plan and agreements, a proposal for an avian flu antibody research project, and media articles, but Crown lawyers noted the documentation was, quote, based on speculative and non-peer-reviewed research and information. It's not really science. It's what it comes down to. It's junk science. It's window dressing. And that's why the result of everything they have been doing out there has been to produce hair tonic to make hair grow, or so they say, and some other products like that. And antibody-infused masks, which I think even at this point have not been really proven to be effective. I think the jury is still out on that one. Stay with me. More ahead.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, and I will just touch again on this shooting in New York. So, still making headlines tonight, of course. Let me just my notes here. So, this tragic shooting in Midtown Manhattan yesterday, which, of course, I apologize. We didn't have this story for you yesterday, but certainly highlighting it now, claiming the lives of that police officer, and we'll continue to follow this for you as well, heading into tomorrow, see what more comes of it. I think there might be more said about the gunman in this case. So I'm going to be monitoring that overnight and through the day tomorrow. So have we touched on pretty much everything here today? I think we're pretty close to kind of wrapping things up. It's disturbing story, I think, out of the U.S. tonight about Trump and those girls being stolen from Mar-a-Lago. Oh, also, I'll highlight this. This is not making much in the way of headlines tonight across Canada, but maybe should be. Maybe there's more to this in terms of importance than people are giving it, the amount of weight that they're giving it. Alberta Premier Smith minister call for separation referendum question to be approved. Smith, she's paving the way. She's facilitating this. She's helping it along. Make no mistake. It says here, Premier Danielle Smith and one of her ministers are calling on Alberta's electoral officer to reverse course and sign off on a proposed referendum question on separation, saying it shouldn't be held back by red tape. The call is in response to Chief Electoral Officer Gordon McClure announcing Monday he referred the proposed question to the courts so a judge could decide if it contravenes Canada's constitution. The proposed question, which needs McClure's approval before the group behind it can start gathering the signatures necessary to get it on a ballot, seeks a yes or no answer to, quote, do you agree that the province of Alberta shall become a sovereign country and cease to be a province in Canada? Smith and Justice Minister Mickey Amory on social media so Albertans should be able to embark on gathering signatures without needless bureaucratic red tape or court applications slowing the process. Amory said here, as it is the government of Alberta that ultimately decides how or if to implement any referendum result, those government decisions will ultimately be subject to constitutional scrutiny. We encourage Elections Alberta to withdraw its court reference and permit Albertans their democratic right to participate in the citizen initiative process. Opposition NDP Deputy Leader Raki Pancholi, in a statement, accused Smith and Amory of going against the administration of a law they themselves set in order to appease separatists within the United Conservative Party. Quote, yet again, Danielle Smith and her UCP government's authoritarian tendencies, corruption, and incompetence are on full display, Pancholi said. Yep. She's beholden. She owes a debt. Make no mistake. See where it goes. We will see where it goes. Harper, he's a Canadian. Yeah. Polyev remains to be seen. He's out there fighting for his life in this by-election. And we are seeing tonight that and where was I? I just saw something on the screen here that I had to take note of. See, Polyev fighting for his life out there, his political life. He needs to win in that by-election, and they made changes to the way the ballot is going to work out there. Let me just get you the details on that. Because they had they got up to over 200. They've up to over 200 candidates now in that riding, because they've got this whole movement or initiative or whatever you want to call it going on out there. Let me take a little break. I'll get you the details. I just want to make sure I get them straight for you. So let me get some notes up. Hang on. I shall.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Yes, so we have this situation in Battle River. What's that riding called? Battle River Crowfoot. For this upcoming by-election. And it's still making headlines tonight because conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is, of course, fighting for his political life out there because he did not win his seat in the federal election. Still living in the home for the official opposition leader tonight, though. Some people not happy about that. But anyway, he's hoping to reclaim a seat in Parliament by winning out in this by-election. The rural riding was vacated by Member of Parliament Damien Currick, and it has set now a record-breaking, they're up to 209 candidates registered. And this is largely due to a protest by this group called the Longest Ballot Committee, advocating for electoral reform. So this unprecedented number of candidates has prompted elections Canada to switch to now write-in ballots for the August 18th vote instead of the standard list-style ballot. So voters will now write the name of their chosen candidate on a single-page ballot. A full list of candidates will be available at polling stations, and ballots will count as long as the voter's intent is clear, even with minor misspellings. Excuse me. So Pierre Poilievre has called the flood of candidates a scam and is pushing for changes to election rules to prevent similar protests. And this by-election follows, of course, Poilievre's loss in his longtime Ottawa riding of Carleton in the last full federal election. So, not stable out there at all. Let me just see what Elections Canada is posting about this. They will no doubt be posting information about this. So here we go. Yeah, and I did report on this yesterday, but of course, it is a huge story because I don't think that we've ever had, well, we haven't had this many candidates run in an election before. So it's a record, folks. So yeah, I'll run this little thingy here again, showing what Elections Canada is telling people. So you have to write the name in, and you don't have to get it exactly correct, like the spelling. So they have to make some provisions here for people who maybe are not fully literate. But if the intent is clear, they'll count your vote. So here we go. So this is how it's going to work, I guess. I think this is the video. I think we ran this the other day. I'm going to pull the music down. So, oh, they're doing it in French. I've got the French version of the video up. I don't dare try to translate that. We need Dragon to do that for us. Dragon from Montreal, where are you when we need you? Let's scroll back up. I think there's another version of it up here. Here we go. So the battle is going to look different, and then you've got an unusually high number of candidates because, you know, what was it, 209 candidates? You'd have to take like a toilet paper roll long list of candidates into the ballot box, into the booth with you to vote. So instead of marking their choice in a circle, electors will need to write the name of the candidate they're voting for on the ballot. Got to write it down. And they have the whole list there. Complete list of candidates will be available. All 209. And as long as the intent of the elector is clear in writing a candidate's name, the vote will count. Just have to make it very clear. Even if you get the spelling a little bit wrong, as long as they can make sure that they're sure that's what your intent is, then the vote will count. If an elector writes only the name of the political party, the vote will not count. You have to write the name of the candidate. As always, the ballot will have integrity safeguards, and election workers will count all the ballots in front of witnesses, yes. And if you have questions, you can contact elections.ca. And I'm sorry we got cut off there for a moment. Our broadcast was temporarily interrupted, but that's okay. We're back. Now, that kind of gets us to the bottom of the hour. So if you're out there in Battle River Crowfoot, less than a month away to voting day and the possible return of Pierre Poilievre to a seat in Parliament, and we'll be hearing more from him or not. Who knows how that's going to go? Very hard to know. Isabel didn't seem too happy about the well, we actually have two versions of that song. So I'm going to leave you with that tonight. This is Dizzy Izzy, version 2 by Maverick and the News Brothers. This, well, I'll just leave it at that. You guys can enjoy the tune, and let's leave the politics behind a little bit. I mean, the song's a little bit political too, making reference to ostriches and everything else here. I'm just going to play the song. Dizzy Izzy, let's dance and try to forget about all the world's troubles tonight. I'll see you back here tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern. On the flip side, Mavericks.
Come on, baby, twist and shout. Come on, baby. knees are getting weaker. Girl, you're out of control. It is a, are you dizzy? Oh, now. It is a, are you mine? Hear me, baby. It is a, dizzy, dizzy. You are controlling my mind. Come on, baby, burst my bubble. Let's turn the dance floor into rubble. Ooh, Izzy, shake me straight and proud, and tell me what it's all about. Yeah, 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 twist and shout. Oh, Izzy, twist and shout. Baby, come on now. Tell me what it's all about.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.